Yo, what's going on, everybody? So first things first, I want to just say I hope everybody is having or doing the best that they can to stay in high spirits during the great quarantine 2020. Crazy times that we're in, but as some of you may know, I have this Bible series where I'm going through the book of Matthew in the Bible. The Bible's a thick book, but Matthew is one of the books that gives a great introduction to who Jesus is, and that's my main purpose right now, is to introduce people who may not know who he is through his actual life story rather than just talking about it. And Matthew has 28 chapters in it. We're now in chapter 17, so we ended off on the last chapter with Jesus predicting his death, right? Like he saw that he was gonna die soon, and he knew it. So now we start off on chapter 17 with what's called the Transfiguration, right? And this is like some crazy I would say it's like some cinematic picture like Dragon Ball Z, if people know what that is. In Dragon Ball Z, how Goku would go Super Saiyan and change forms. That's kind of what a good example of transfiguration for us to try and visualize really what goes on here. But it says, after 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, the brother of James, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. There he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light. Just then there appeared before them Moses and Elijah talking with Jesus. Now Moses and Elijah were people who had died years beforehand. So they appeared from the world that we cannot see, right? Like where you go after you die. They showed up in physical form after Jesus transfigured. And just then there appeared, Moses and Elijah talking with Jesus. And Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, is it good for us to be here?" Because I'm sure they were startled and scared. "Is it good for us to be here? If you wish, I will put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." Now, what he's saying, I'll put up 3 shelters and stuff, clearly he's just talking out of fear. Because don't nobody know what this dude is talking about. "Oh, if you want, I can put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for..." He doesn't understand what he's seeing. So he's just talking. So it says, while he was still speaking, a bright cloud covered them. And a voice from the cloud said, "This is my son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." To go into depth, I have a Bible where at the bottom it has notes by Dr. David Jeremiah, who's a guy who's really done a lot of research in biblical and anything involved with the Christian faith and the Bible and things like that. And the part where I was talking, where I was Peter didn't know what he was talking about, he was just talking reckless. Dr. David Jeremiah says, those present at the Transfiguration provide a picture of the coming kingdom of Christ. Moses represents those who died in Christ. Elijah represents those who will be raptured someday. He had been taken to heaven without dying. The 3 apostles represented redeemed Israel, and Christ is the king. All right, so to continue, it says, when the disciples heard this, they fell face down to the ground, terrified. This is after the voice comes from the cloud saying, "This is my son, listen to him." They get so terrified now, they fall to the ground. But Jesus came and touched them. "Get up," he said. "Don't be afraid." When they looked up, they saw no one except Jesus. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus instructed them, "Don't tell anyone what you have seen until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead." And when he says that, Son of Man, he's talking about himself. So he's like, don't tell anyone what you've seen until I come back from the dead. And I still don't think they fully understood what he was talking about then, because it hadn't happened yet, right? For all we know as humans, when a person dies, that's it. Kaput, you're done. So that's also why they could have been terrified, seeing these are some dudes that have been dead for ages now. What the heck? So Jesus tries to tell him, get up, don't be afraid. But then he says, don't tell anybody what you've seen until the Son of Man is raised from the dead. So then the disciples asked him, why then do the teachers of the law say that Elijah must come first? And this is them trying to, I guess, stay true to what the text at the beginning portion of the Bible. The beginning portion of the Bible is what's known as the Jewish text, like the Torah. And Christians, we have it set up to where we have the Jewish text, and we call it the Old Testament, and then we have the text that talks about Jesus and all of his teachings over on this side, the New Testament, and they go hand in hand. So they asked, then why then do the teachers of the law say that Elijah must come first? And Jesus replied, to be sure, Elijah comes and will restore all things. But I tell you, Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but have done to him everything they wished. In the same way, the Son of Man is going to suffer at their hands. Then the disciples understood that he was talking to them about John the Baptist. So Jesus was basically stating that Elijah did come back like the Old Testament said he would, but he came back as Jesus' cousin, who was John the Baptist, and John the Baptist actually got beheaded. If you remember, I think that was a couple chapters ago, but yeah, Jesus' cousin got murked, and yeah, by getting murked, you know, Jesus is basically saying like, yo, they did my homie dirty, and you know, they probably gonna do the same thing to me, because that's just the way the world is set up. So then it continues and it says, Jesus heals a demon-possessed boy. When they came to the crowd, a man approached Jesus and knelt before him. Lord, have mercy on my son, he said. He has seizures and is suffering greatly. He often falls into the fire or into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not heal him. You unbelieving and perverse generation, Jesus replied, how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me. That sounds rude, but let's see where he's coming from. So Dr. David Jeremiah, he mentions that nothing is impossible with God. Even a small amount of faith is adequate to move a mountain. As summing up, the move is in God's will. The ministry of the disciples would always require faith and prayerful reliance on God. So Jesus is showing his frustration as to how the man says, I brought my child to your disciples, but they could not heal him. Jesus is saying, you unbelieving and perverse generation, because all they had to do was believe that the power of God is working with them and working for them in order to pull it off. But clearly they didn't, because the son wasn't getting healed. So Jesus replied, how long shall I stay here with you? Like, he's trying to teach everyone, but then he's trying to get back to heaven. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, bro, like, this ain't the move. This is just like the demo to the game, you know? So he's like, how long shall I stay here with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me. So you can see he's very frustrated. And he says, Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy, and he was healed at that moment. Then the disciples came to Jesus in private and asked, why couldn't we drive it out? So then he replies, because you have so little faith. Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. Whew! Whew! And he's not just speaking to the disciples when he says this. This is something like the fact that I have my own place. I got my own studio set up. My own puppy. I'll put y'all on game with that right now. My puppy, Bunky, he's in puppy like boarding school right now, like learning how to sit and, you know, heel and do all that different stuff. But it's like months ago, like I was just talking to God, just like, how am I gonna pull this off, Lord? Like, I want to be able to put out music consistently. I want to be able to like grow my career, but I also want to be on a platform where I can like confidently tell people about you and like, you know, just like basically get my life together. And it's like I had to believe in that, and literally it was like overnight, like my whole situation changed. But that came from faith and knowing that, relying on, like when he says, truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. He is putting you on game, but you just have to believe in it. You have to know that it's true. Once you know that it's true, literally it's like a cheat code to life. But, you know, like I said, I'm not here to try and change anyone's faith or anything like that. I just want to introduce this to you, and through introducing it to you, I'm hoping that you can try and look into it yourself and see for yourself what the truth is. And I personally like what Jesus says, where he says, I am the truth, I am the way, I am the life. I am the truth that you're looking for. I am the way to happiness, the way to joy, the way to peace, and I am the life. I am eternal life, like not this life that we have here on earth where you got like 80 to 100 years to like make your junk happen, and after that, you're done. But with him, you do not cease to exist. He provides eternal life even after you leave here. Like the dude is cold, man, but it's sad to see like the disciples didn't even have enough faith to really make things happen, which also goes to show like these were people who were closest to Jesus, which shows like in your life, like there's gonna be moments where you will see things that scare you enough to have a earthly mindset, right? Like they probably saw that this kid had something in them that was going to be intense to try and get out, and by looking at the problem and focusing on the problem, it took away their belief that they could overcome it, right? And we experienced that with bills, with the loss of loved ones, losing a job, you know, all these different things where we start to look at the world and be like, yo, what the heck? Like, I am in a tough situation. But if we change our perspective and look at it like, I have a God who is with me where nothing is impossible to overcome in any situation, then it makes it easier to move forward. So that even goes to show you can be literally one of Jesus's homies, and the world that we're in, you know, it's human nature for us to, you know, deal with things like that. But so the story continues where it says Jesus predicts his death a second time. It says, when they came together in Galilee, he said to them, the Son of Man is going to be, and I just want to make it clear, like when it says when they came together in Galilee, like there was a point in time where like I would read these stories in the Bible, and it would almost like ring in my mind as like not really like a fairy tale, but just like a story like Harry Potter and stuff like that, right? Where it's like they show up at Hogwarts, you know, and it's just like, okay, cool, like the story continues. But no, like this is a historical book, like Galilee, like this is a real place, like out over there by Israel and Philistine and like all like Egypt, all these different things, like these are real places. So I want you to know, like when you hear these things and when you read these things, like it's like you can go and see like this stuff for yourself. You know what I mean? Like this isn't some like Hogwarts type of situation. This is real history. So it says, when they came together in Galilee, he said to them, the Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men. And when he says the Son of Man, he's always talking about himself. So he says, I will be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill him, and on the third day, he will be raised to life. And the disciples were filled with grief, right? Because again, like the story hadn't happened yet. So they're sitting there like, yo, like what the heck? Like what is homie talking about? Like, so they got sad when they hear him talk about like, I'm gonna be delivered into the hands of men. They gonna kill me, and then I'm gonna come back to life. I'm gonna be raised from the dead like 3 days later. Like for them, they just like, man, what is homie talking about, man? He doing too much turning water to wine, and this man is going loco right now. You know, that's fun. So then it says the temple tax. And it says, after Jesus and his disciples arrived in Capernaum, the collectors of the 2 drachma temple tax came to Peter and asked, doesn't your teacher pay the temple tax? Yes, he does, Peter replied. When Peter came into the house, Jesus was the first to speak. What do you think, Simon? He asked. Now, Jesus will call Peter Simon because in translation to their native tongue, it meant rock, and Peter, in terms of their native tongue, was pebble. So basically, Jesus was like big up in his boy, being like, yo, like before you met me, you was pebble, but like these days you rock, you know. So as I says, so it says when Peter came into the house, when Pebble came into the house, Jesus was the first to speak. What do you think, Rock? And he said, from whom do the kings of the earth collect? And Jesus said, from whom do the kings of the earth collect duty and taxes? From their own children or from others? From others, Peter answered. Then the children are exempt, Jesus said to him. Then Jesus said, but so that we may not cause offense, go to the lake and throw out your line. Take the first fish you catch, open its mouth, and you will find a 4 drachma coin. Take it and give it to them to pay my tax and yours. Bro, that's cold-blooded, bro. Hold up, that's the last part of chapter 17. But bro, that's like something out of a movie. So hold up. We gotta run that back. So when they arrived in Capernaum, the collectors of the 2 drachma temple. Okay, so to pay your taxes, it seems you had to pay 2 drachma. That was like the currency. Temple tax. They came to Peter and asked, doesn't your teacher pay the temple tax? And Peter was like, yes, he does. You know, so it seemed like Peter was just answering like, just not like, yeah, he pays his taxes. Was that boy Jesus on tax evasion? Hold up. So when Peter came into the house, Jesus was the first to speak. That's also what's crazy. Is Peter didn't even come into the house like, yo, Jesus, I was out, and like some tax collectors were like, yo, do you pay your taxes? Jesus was the first to speak, meaning that he already knew what was going on. Bro, this dude is cold, bruh. It says, and first thing Jesus says was, what do you think, Simon? From whom do the kings of the earth collect duty and taxes? From their own children or from others? And from others, Peter answered. Then the children are exempt. Jesus said to him, but so that we may not cause offense, go to the lake and throw out your line. Take the first fish you catch, open its mouth, and you will find a 4 drachma coin. Take it and give it to them for my tax and yours. But what's he saying when he says the children are exempt? So the kings of the country and stuff, they're the ones who collect the money. But he's saying they don't collect it from their own children, they collect it from everybody else. So his children are exempt. So is he basically exempting himself and Peter by being like, yo, like, instead of us digging in our pockets, go to the lake. I'm somehow going to have the first fish you catch, have the exact coinage we need, and we chilling. Bro, that's crazy. And that also just goes to show, that when you're living in a relationship with Jesus, everything you need, he will provide it. Everything you need. Like, it's crazy. It's so crazy. It's like a magic trick, man. It really does feel like a cheat code. It feels unfair, honestly. Does not feel fair. That don't make no sense, man. Dang. Well, I could ramble on a tangent on that for a while, but yo, again, everybody, stay in high spirits during this great quarantine 2020. Spend time with family, work on yourself, try not to develop any bad habits. Everybody has a lot of time on their hands right now, and because of that, that idle mind, as they say, is the devil's playground. So if you don't stay occupied and don't find things to continuously improve yourself or work on and things like that, that can open up the door for bad habits to arise. Make sure you're eating healthy. Make sure you're taking your vitamins and everything, and do everything necessary to take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, and let's keep on keeping on. Peace.